Okay, guys. Well, I don't know if anybody actually watches my stuff, but if you do, that's awesome. If you don't, that's cool too. I'm actually outside, just kind of camping. But I said in my last video that I wanted to do something that was inspirational in some sort of fashion type manner or whatever. So that's what this video is gonna be like. Um, yeah. So grab your tissue. Anyway, so I'll start off when I was born, I guess. Um, Sorry, there's somebody across the lake, and I'm just kind of sitting here stalking them. But it started off I was born into a family that actually had really bad drug issues. I am a product of incest. My biological mother was my first. My biological mother had sex with her first cousin, and that's my biological dad. Um, I was then she proceeded to push me through a neglectful, uh, traumatizing first years of childhood, and I ended up getting sent through 9 foster homes before I was even 4 years old, 3 of which were very abusive. And so after, I got sent to my now family, Don and Randy Campbell, whoop whoop. My biological mother still had um, visitation rights, and she only came to 2, and so last time I saw her before uh, before a couple of years ago was whenever she hugged me goodbye, and she left 5 minutes after she got there. And she had signed over papers, right, her parental rights, not everything. And after that, you just kind of grew up. Well, I just kind of grew up wondering why I wasn't enough for anybody, especially my own mom. So I grew up very angry. I was a very angry child. I for the most part for the most part um, had really bad I would call it schizophrenia episodes. I had really bad bipolar and anger issues. It got to the point where I had initially started cutting my stomach. I was getting into fights every other day since elementary school. I don't remember what grade it was, but I actually ended up stabbing somebody in the eye with scissors. I was just all around very angry, very dark person to be around. And so, my mom, my dad, they just, for the most part, they couldn't handle me. And I got sent off first to Woodridge, which is a it's like a place for crazy people down here in Tennessee. And I was there, I guess it was like a month. I was there for a month. And not even a few days after getting there, I actually had to be restrained down to a metal table with bench straps. And they had to actually seduce me. I had tried to attack multiple staff members very violently. And And then I had gone into middle school. Whenever middle school came, it just seems like things got worse. I did get bullied, but I was also a bully. So, my home life wasn't that good. I mean, as far as, materialistically, I had everything that anybody could ever want. Materialistically. But, I just had so many, anger issues, so many problems that my parents couldn't deal to be around me too long because, it was very harmful for their psychological health. And so after all that, middle school, I ended up getting into a lot of fights. But that's where my schizophrenia actually started kicking in. My mom said that she would wake up in the middle of the night and I would be in the middle of the street saying that I was being told to get hit by a car. And I don't really remember any of that. I just remember going to sleep and waking up. And she actually had to tell me, all this stuff. So at that point, I was getting put on medication. At that point, I had seen up to 7 psychologists and psychiatrists, 2 of which quit on me. I don't know if you guys know, but it takes a lot for a person who's getting paid to sit there, listen to your problems, and just, and on another side of the spectrum, just refer to you to medicine. It takes a lot for them to be like, oh, well, you're just a lost cause, and just quit on you. But apparently, that was the case for 2. And at the point where I had started getting on medication, I actually began to gain a lot of weight. And at that point, I had made a new friend, and I was bigger than the normal person, but I wasn't too big to where I couldn't do nothing. I'd walked every day and all this stuff. But I had made a friend in middle school, and I'm not going to tell anybody her name, just for her protection. Or I haven't really gotten permission to use her name for anything. But she had come over, and she tried her best to to be friends with me, because that was the first friend that I actually had. And at one point we went down to somebody's house, and my family knew their family, and we just decided to camp down there at their house. Once again, I'm not mentioning any names. But at that point, there was a grown man who was also staying at where we were camping, but he was staying in the house and we were staying in the tents, just so nothing got mixed up. But that next day, he actually followed me and my friend home, and I actually had to watch her be raped. And whenever I tried to defend her, whenever I tried to, get him off of her, he then proceeded to rape me. And after that, I actually ended up telling my mom, and nobody believed me. The police didn't believe me, because at this point, I was numb. I was very numb. I didn't cry much. I didn't really have much, emotion or anything. But the police didn't believe me. Nobody believed me. So I recanted. And she ended up recanting as well. So after that, I actually tried to take my life for the first time with pills. And I had to be sent to Camelot which is a place down here in Tennessee. It's for the it's like the minors that are either too vicious or, just not really able to deal in society. And, I spent about 2.5 months down there. And I came back, and I wasn't too aggressive or nothing. I wasn't having flare-ups like I was all the time. Me and my mom, we were like, okay, well, they got my medicine right. I was on Topamax, and I actually ended up losing a lot of weight. I went from a size 24 down to a size 12. And then after coming home, I went from a size 12 down to a size 8. So, at that point, I was really, I was feeling good. I was, I liked the way I looked. And so I do what every teenager does. I had a little emo phase that turned into a gothic phase. And then I started high school. And whenever I started high school, it's just like, you're there with a bunch of people who just like to criticize and bully for no reason. And I met this one guy who, once again, I'm not going to name names, who we ended up being friends. I started high school in 2011, and we ended up being friends. And he actually got bullied a lot. His dad was a cop and his mom was a stripper. And so everybody just thought that was the funniest thing in the world. Well, he had ended up committing suicide right before 2012. And it devastated me. About a week later, I once again tried to take my own life, but this time I tried to slit my wrist. Needless to say, I was still cutting my stomach, but I tried to slit my wrist, and my mom and dad found out, and we sat down, had a talk, because at this point I could talk. I was emotional. I wasn't necessarily numb about anything. So after that happened, I went back to school. I didn't really have any other friends, so it's not like people were going to find out. I didn't really have social media, so it's not like, everybody already knew. Which I guess was a blessing because, nobody really talked to me. They knew I was vicious. They knew that I enjoyed fighting more than anything, which is not a good thing now that I look back on it, because, you just hurt a lot of people. And so after all of that, came my sophomore year. At that point, I was going to Central, but Central had ended up picking, which I was in the social intervention class, which is like behavior modification. You stay kind of isolated from the other people. It's like a smaller classroom area. It's not necessarily like mental kids. It's for the kids that lash out easily in crowds and stuff like that. But I was a straight A student and everything. But our school bus ended up having to pick up the kids from East. And I got a glimpse of somebody who I actually had a crush on him, and I hadn't even spoken to him, but I don't really think he acknowledged me. And then that next year, he ended up coming to Central instead of East. Where, because he didn't pay no attention to me, I wasn't going to pay no attention to him, but we ended up getting together. It was like that cute high school thing that everybody wants. And I ended up getting pregnant. I got pregnant at 15, had my baby at 16. But the Christmas right before I had my son in April of 2014, but that Christmas right before I had my son, we had gotten into a big altercation. Like, he was hitting me, I was hitting him, and all this stuff while I was pregnant. And on top of everything, I had made another best friend, and he decided to leave. And so, it's a crazy thing having kids, because if I wasn't pregnant, I honestly believe that I would have just shot myself in front of my so-called best friend's window. And so, after having my son and all this, my best friend decides that he wants to be part of my life again, because me and my son's father, we weren't together. And so he came back into my life and all this, and I trusted him. And after that had happened, I had met this other man who I'm not going to call names, but we ended up, after I had my son, 6 months after I had my son, I met him, and we ended up, I wanted to date somebody who wasn't that attractive, so I could actually, have a good relationship, because I figured if you don't date somebody too attractive to you or to anybody else, then you're going to have this man forever. I was 16. That was my thinking. So there I am dating this man, and I had gotten into altercations, nothing physical, just kind of screaming at each other and all this. Well, at one point he decided to pull out a shotgun, and he pointed it right at me, and he told me I better shut the fuck up, otherwise he was going to pull the trigger. I couldn't really do nothing but just stare. I wasn't necessarily scared. I was shocked that somebody could do that. And I broke up with him, and he threatened to kill my family. He threatened to kill my best friend, which, normal people, they're not going to go back. But I ended up missing him, and I went back to him. I ended up getting on drugs. I was a IV methamphetamines user for 2.5 years. I did do Subutex, Suboxone, and a couple other drugs. That was whenever Flocka was just now getting its way into the South. And so, we stayed together for a little bit, and then we broke up. I tried to get clean and all this stuff. I was on the right path. I ended up getting myself an apartment, paying for everything myself. Got a new car. I had custody of my son. I was doing good. And then me and him got back together, and I ended up spiraling out of control once more. And there's something with Christmas and me that we just don't click, because I had ended up not being able to see my son for Christmas, and I overdosed Christmas Eve, and from where, I was a tweaker, so-called. I did a lot of drugs, so I had an alarm system set up on my door. And at one point, my door came open. There was, nobody came in or nothing. The door just opened. And so, I don't know what you guys believe. My adopted parents believe in Christianity. I'm spiritual, as in I have a spiritual connection with God. but I'm not religious, as in I'm not going to be some hypocrite bigot who's going to shove my religion down your throat. But everybody was saying that it was God who had, made that way for the door to open and my alarm to get set. I ended up overdosing on PCP, Flocka, heroin, and it was all melted down into a hot shot, into a needle, and I shot it. And so after that had happened, it was just, I get told all the time, I don't even understand how you survived that. And I said, obviously there was something there. But, so anyway, after that had happened, I had, the police busted in my house. They found, they found me just kind of laying there, and I had to go to the hospital. Whenever I had agreed to go to rehab, I went to Teen Challenge, which is a 13-month-long faith-based recovery program for ladies ages 17 to 65 who struggle with life-controlling issues. So it is a Christian faith-based program. However, it was what I knew was going to help me. And a lot of my past, I still have really bad issues telling, because I don't remember a lot. I have been pistol whipped by my so-called my ex-boyfriend, my so-called lover, or whatever. And this is the one who I was on drugs heavy with. He actually had ended up pulling the trigger on me and trying to shoot me on multiple occasions, which it barely clipped my leg, and I still have scars from it. I had been stabbed over a drug deal. It was a drug deal gone wrong and all this stuff. I just have very bad remembering. The only reason I know things happened is because I can remember it and see the scars. And so going into, rehab, you're over here saying, you're a drug addict, you're going into rehab, you're going to try. But I wasn't all that prepared. And whenever I went into rehab, I could only focus on the negative. I actually intensely hated how things had gone down. And it was a sad moment whenever you're 4 months into your program and you're finally kind of sobering up and you're getting all that stuff out of your system, and you start to remember more and more, like just certain things that you wanted to keep suppressed. It gets brought to the surface. And so I got out of rehab on November 17th, 2017. And I've been sober for almost 2 years now. Today is July 9th. And 2018, so I've been sober for a little over a year and a half, almost 2 years. However, just because you go to rehab, that doesn't make all your problems go away. That doesn't make the cravings go away. Rehab just teaches you that you are bigger and you are better than what you went through. I do remember being really heavy into witchcraft, and I do believe in a lot of the dark forces. I do believe that a lot of them still kind of, just don't go away. I still see a lot of things in dreams, and I just, you just kind of wish that things were different. But I now get to see my son. I am, I work at Waffle House. Obviously, it's not going to be like some fabulous thing that, as soon as you get out of rehab, you're just going to make your whole life better. But I'm not even going to lie. I do have struggles. I have cravings. And my main struggle is, whenever things go bad, I can't be cutting myself. Whenever things get out of hand and you start arguing with somebody and you start yelling, you can't just go do drugs and forget about it. I struggle a lot with whenever, people straight up say, I'm not going to infringe my religious on anybody, but I expect that same respect in return. And I don't like it whenever, you sit there and, you tell your whole story to Facebook, and the only thing people can say is, God was never real. Like, how can you say that whenever, I should have died? Like, the police officers even said, I don't even understand how you could have survived. I did more drugs to kill. I did enough drugs to kill, like 6 rhinos or whatever. It was. I did a lot of drugs. And the only thing that I have wrong with me, I don't even have HIV, which is really, it's something that a lot of people can't say after drug use. Especially whenever you shoot it. But the only thing I have is my, the lining of, like, my, liver, I guess it is, deteriorating. But I got told that was from heavy caffeine use. So, I love caffeine. I love drinking coffee. I will drink coffee all day, every day if I absolutely could. But anyway, I tried not to cry. So, I don't know if you watched this whole thing and you're just trying to, I don't know, if you're, I hope for an instance that you found it inspiring, or if you're currently in drug use or an abusive relationship, I hope you found inspiration in your heart or in your soul deep down to know what's right, and just, realize, you got so much more to live for. To be somebody's punching bag or somebody's target at a shooting range, or, even I used to think of myself as a dog that should be put down. There's so much more than that. In rehab, I had come to the epiphany, or whatever you want to call it, that I myself actually want to be I want to help kids who came from where, I came from, abusive, neglectful system. or, you know, anything of that nature, whether you have druggy parents or whether you have parents that just don't give a shit about you, or they just want to give you the whole world but never give you any attention or anything. You know, because that's still the same thing as if you hit a kid, if not more damaging. But anyway, feel free to message me. I don't really know how to message on here, but you know, feel free to message me. React to my videos if you want. Make fun of what you would, or, you know, just kind of take it to heart. Whatever you feel like doing. I'm still just gonna sit here and stalk these people because there's legit just a highway over there. There's not a campground, so I'm feeling kind of paranoid right now. So hope y'all like the video.